I need your help. Hawaii needs your help. Our country needs your help. Your family members who serve this country in the military need your help. Your kids in the future who will serve this country will need your help. But we have to do it, and it's never going to get done in Washington without us making it happen. So with that, let's stop and talk about any questions, any concerns, anything you don't understand about how this works. And we'll try to end on something that's positive and something that gives you some hope. I'm hopeful. You know, I talk to people on the airplane. I say, well, what do you think about our country right now? Oh, it's in the pits. They're down in the gutter. I said, well, what if I told you there was a way you could fix it? Oh, get out of here. And then all of a sudden, after I explain Article 5, they got this big smile on their face. We can fix it. I can do something. I can make a difference. And what I need you to do is to make a difference. I need you to come along and make a difference. So who wants to talk? Who's first? You're not all Baptists. Come on.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
My name is Sean Mitsui. I work for the Grassroots Institute of Hawaii. I wanted to ask about your experience in Washington. How many times have you heard the excuse people saying, well, the Constitution is a living, breathing document, so about Second Amendment, First Amendment?
No, I haven't. The only time I sat on the Judiciary Committee for 8 of the 10 years I was in Washington. I sat on 4 Supreme Court nominees. I held a lot of nominees because they believed that. But it's only in the legal circles do you hear that. In the running of the Constitution, of the daily run of the Senate, after I was there a year, nobody talked about that anymore, because I sent them all a letter the first year I was there that said, if you try to run a bill that's outside the enumerated powers or isn't paid for and outside of the enumerated, I'm going to hold it. And of course, most of you all don't realize, most of the things that pass in the U.S. Senate pass by what's called unanimous consent. There's never a vote taken. It's the cloakroom calls all the offices and says, we want to pass this bill, here's the number. If you have an objection, call by X and X time. Well, if I hadn't read the bill, I automatically objected no matter what it was until I could read the bill to know what I was saying yes to or no to. So everybody got all bent out of shape because I sent them that letter. And in a way was one of the guys that was most offended because he spent money no matter what it was. And he was a great man, a great veteran for our country, and a great man of service to our country. But he didn't care how much money he spent. And so after the last year I was there, it was my 10th year, 30 members of the Senate signed my letter to everybody else saying, if you do this. So leadership matters. So there is that philosophy. But if you read anything our founders said, they didn't believe it was a living document. They looked back at Locke and Montesquieu and studied what they had to say. It is not a breathing document when you take my individual rights away. They're not given to me by my government. They're given to me by my Creator. And government is there to hold those rights and protect them, not to take them away. So there's no living and breathing to it. Was the Constitution imperfect? Absolutely. Were there mistakes made? Yeah. Have we corrected most of those mistakes through the years? Yes. So the question is on whose authority do they say the wisdom of that document as it has come about is breathing and living, and we need to change it? And so I didn't hear that from any. Now, I heard it from a lot of people who were trying to get judges put on. Yes, sir.
Al Frenzel, so this wasn't on my radar in 98 or 2008. How did Hawaii do? What was the voting data, the statistics?
What's your question
How
about?
many were blind votes? How many were...
Oh, that's on the Constitutional Convention. That's something totally different.
Yeah, but
right, okay.
still...
Yeah, he's asking about the state constitutional convention with all the blank ballots that counted as no.
Yeah. As I said, the majority of votes cast were yes in the 88 election. I don't know, off the top of my head, don't remember the exact numbers and all that. But as I said, the United Public Workers Union went to court right away. People laughed at that, that they were going to challenge it on their basis, but they not only challenge it, and that set the precedent, which is still good today. Now, interestingly enough, oftentimes you'll vote on the city level, as you did last year, for charter amendments. The blank ballot decision does not apply, only to state constitutional convention votes.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I was ignorant on this issue. I didn't mean to change subjects.
Yeah.
So what do we need to pass for
Well,
Hawaii? Who are the voters?
let me give you a word of caution.
Yeah.
When you start talking about Hawaii's constitutional convention, you put power in our opponents.
That's what-
Because they keep saying that, well, that's what we're having. We don't have that. And all the history would say we're not asking for that. What we have to do is we have to have 34 states make the exact same application. Congress then has to call a convention, and the only thing that can be considered is those 3 subject matters that I outlined. Nothing else can be considered. And if it is, a point of order goes against it and it falls. So it's entirely safe position. What has to happen in Hawaii is both your Senate and your House have to pass a joint, what's called a joint resolution that says Hawaii agrees with these 3 components and asks for a convention. Yes, ma'am.
Well, we looked at this in 2009 in Florida. A lot of people that I was working with here in the Tea Party groups, and the fear was that somebody would come in and have some kind of ulterior motive to come in to try to actually dismantle our Constitution. So initially, it was a lot of misinformation, and even Mark Levine. You know, he was one of the opponents of the convention of the states, and now he's on board with it.
Yeah,
So
until he read it.
yeah, and I was wondering, when you said something about, you know, a law that's not constitutional is no law at all. But, didn't Thomas Jefferson give us the nullification option?
Well, you could do nullification, and you can, the one great example of that is what's happening right now in terms of marijuana. But if the federal government decided to enforce the federal law on controlled substances, you'd be shut down in a minute but they chose not to do that. So nullification doesn't work. Plus, it'd take you about 45 years to nullify everything that needs to be changed. So nullification is what some people would like to do. There's another theory out there, and here's the other thing I haven't told you. If you've got a better idea than this to fix our country, I'll abandon this one and come help you. So the other thing we can do, if we can't get this done, is as citizens together, do civil disobedience. So we're not going to follow your law in our schools. You know, Utah doesn't take any federal money for schools. Therefore, they don't have to follow the rules of the Department of Education.
Well, that's basically sound money, you know, I mean, and when you talk about restoring a sound monetary economic system, and then you have an actual reserve that's real,
Yeah,
then you can take the power away from the Federal Reserve, which is basically who all of the politicians in Washington are answering to anyway.
yeah.
Because all of our tax dollars are paying them. We're just buying debt.
Yeah.
You know, so, I mean, there's so many things. I guess I was for convention of states, then I was leery because there's so many things going on in this country that are scary, because you find what's going on now, like the resistance movement and Antifa and what just happened in Las Vegas. And so many people believe in what they're seeing in the media, believe in what the news is telling people.
Well, actually, there's a good analysis on that, so I can give you some encouragement. Is most people don't watch CNN. And there's fewer and fewer watching MSNBC. And the fact is most Americans aren't believing that. What's happening with most Americans, they got their head down, working like crazy, husband and wife, to raise a family, to pay their bills, and they're not paying any attention to it. But when somebody comes around and says, I don't think we ought to try to give your jobs away anymore by having free trade with China that cheats. And I want to make a point on this. I went to China as a U.S. Senator and met with their Secretary of Commerce. His name was Bo Xilin. China has signed the World Trade Agreement. right? They're a member of WTO. And in that means they will play by the rules. So the first question out of my mouth, as I met with the Secretary of Commerce of China, this was 6 years ago, are you gonna keep your word on WTO? He said, no, we're not. We have no intention to. I got up and walked out of the meeting. The other two senators sat there with their mouth open. They said, where are you going? I said, he's just told you that they lied. They signed an agreement, they're not gonna keep the agreement. Why should we continue to give them the benefits of our markets when they're cheating us every chance they can, as a government who just now admitted that they're gonna do it? So when people who have lost their jobs, good paying jobs that give security, send their kids to school, and we've done that through I'm all for free trade, but I want it to be fair at the same time. And when they have a presidential candidate that says, you know, I think we ought to try to get your jobs back. I think that's right. We ought to try to do that. So well, I don't worry about what the press says, because you know what? Right now, most people are turning it off. They don't want to hear it. It's like if I talk negative all the time to you, you don't want to hear me, right? You want to hear something good, something positive. What's great about today? What's great about today is we hopefully will get tomorrow and get to make a better America. What's great about today is you guys are here and we have an opportunity to change things. So, look, tell me, here's the danger. Doing nothing is a disaster. That's the problem. Doing nothing is a disaster.
How do you educate them? I mean, Hawaii is a very unique state because it's so diverse with the multiculturalism, and also because of the revisionist version of what has happened historically in America, and all the negative stories that you hear about how people were oppressed and taken advantage of, and the Indians were wiped out, and the slaves, and all those different things.